To that point, folks, I have the single honor and the privilege to introduce our star guest speaker. Professor Nana Ama Browne Klutse is a Ghanaian climate scientist and the CEO of the Environmental Protection Authority in Ghana, leading environmental policies, and also she's a professor at the University of Ghana. She's the vice chair of the IPCC Working Group 1 and an HIMSS research chair in climate change science. Her work focuses on Africa's climate system, climate modeling, and education. She also mentors youth, promotes community development, and influences national climate policies. Ladies and gentlemen gathering, I have the single honor to welcome Professor Nana Ama Browne Klutse. Is that the way you clap for a professor? She will give you an F.
Thank you. Nana Chair, members of the high table, I will still stand on the existing protocol established. I wish to present, please can you show my slides? And thank you for the nice introduction. So to speak on strengthening Ghana's climate resilience, the role the Environmental Protection Authority is playing. But I decided to add environmental. So I'm making it a bit broader. And I'm happy I thought of that because the last speaker mentioned a lot of environmental issues we need to deal with. And my mandate as the CEO of the Environmental Protection Authority in Ghana is about protecting the environment, which includes the climate. So my office hosts the climate desk for the country. Please, next slide. So I start with air pollution because air is part of our environment. We can do without food for a couple of days. Jesus did 40 days fasting, so at least for that one we have a reference we can do. We can do without maybe water for also a couple of days. I don't know if anybody can do without water for even up to a week. But for air, it's just a minute or two that we can't do away with. So I bring it up as the forefront because it's extremely important for our survival. So we have a lot of pollution in the air, and protecting the quality of air is the mandate for all of us, and is the mandate of the Environmental Protection Authority. Currently, Ghana, so air pollution remains one of Ghana's #1 environmental health risk, and is taking a lot of lives. It also contributes to climate change. In fact, contributes to global warming, adding to greenhouse emissions in the atmosphere, and adding up to the global warming discussion that is topical. So according to the World Health Organization, we hear that 100% of Ghana's population is exposed to PM 2.5 levels. So these are suspended particles in the atmosphere. They can be dust, they can be some other particles, whichever the source, but a tiny size of 2.5 suspending in the atmosphere. So this mixed up with the air that we breathe, and this gives a lot of health risk to us. Next slide. So we get the air polluted from the factories, or we get it from the vehicles on the road, especially areas where we have heavy traffic in Ghana. If I say Ghana, in fact, I'm giving these references from Ghana, but the story is about the same in most African countries. We also get air pollution from cooking, from firewood and charcoal. And most households in Ghana use firewood and charcoal in cooking. And thus, we hear only from that source, we get about 8,800 premature deaths annually. So air pollution from our kitchen, from our homes alone, is causing that number of deaths annually. So I mentioned also that we get some pollution also from vehicles. So the vehicles that we have on the road pollute the ambient air that we breathe from. Industries, that's same. And we have open burning, which is another challenge we're battling with in Ghana, and I'm sure in most African countries. So it's apart from the health risk that we get from the air pollution, we also have the economic costs to it. And the estimate we are getting is 4 to 5% of Ghana's GDP that is used annually for health due to air pollution. Next slide. So I'll talk about the interventions from our side, from the EPA side. The Environmental Protection Authority of Ghana leads the fight on air pollution. So we do it through a combination of the regulations that we have. We do monitoring, we do partnership, we do public education. So for the air quality, we have installed a number of sensors around the country to measure the quality of air, especially heavily polluted areas. So we can advise government, we can advise private sector, we can advise the public on the situation on the ground. So the last figure you see with colors are some of the public announcement that we make on the quality of air. Where it is green, it means the quality is good, it's less polluted. Where it gets red and deeper towards the other side, it means the air is heavily polluted. So we have this, the instruments all over the country to measure the quality of air. We also have installed, and still in the process of installing, bringing other companies on board. So for the quality of air or the pollution we get from the industries, we have installed air quality monitoring in companies. We call it GOSEMS. So this allows the EPA to monitor directly from our office the pollution or emissions from the industries. So we have been successfully installed these in cement factories, in different manufacturing factories in the country. And we are able to see in real terms the emissions that happen in these factories. So that's other efforts we are making. So then we can give quick interventions where necessary. So we are able to measure most of the particles or the pollutants in the atmosphere from EPA and advise government on that. And then we have the regulations as well, which actually guide us in the work that we do. So we have specifically for air quality, and then we have for water quality and other ones as well. So that is for the air. I want to talk about the water. My slide's not up, but I want to talk about the water. The last speaker, I didn't get his name, mentioned illegal mining. So in Ghana, we are struggling from water pollution, from illegal mining activities that bring heavy metals into the river bodies, and we also suffer same pollution from waste dump. So you get waste dumped indiscriminately in our water bodies, and then we suffer from these, or we are losing our water bodies also because of deforestation. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So this is still unclear. You can go next slide again. Next slide. So those are still interventions. So I'm just jumping to the air, water pollution now. So we're struggling a lot in terms of our water. We are losing, we've lost already about 90% of our water bodies in Ghana. Major water bodies are all polluted, and this is the color you see. The turbidity is very high, and also having heavy metals in there. And this is a problem for the country. The Ghana Water Company that's supposed to treat our water and provide for the use for Ghanaians are struggling to treat the contaminants in the water. So the heavy metals are a problem. Turbidity is not much of a problem, but it's still a problem, as many of our water bodies have this color instead of the blue natural color water has. Next slide. So what we're doing is continuously monitor the quality of water for assessment, and we collaborate a lot with the Ghana Water Resources Commission that have the mandate to protect our water bodies. And we do regular monitoring and give updates to Ghana government and the population of Ghana as well on the state of our water bodies. We give, for industries that do pollute our water bodies through the effluent they discharge, we allow only a certain level of discharge into the environment, only for treated waste water into the environment. Where we find industries doing otherwise, they go through the law, or they go through what we do when we found you non-compliant to the environmental issues. Next slide. Okay, so another thing the EPA, we are doing to help with the issues of water is partnering with the Ghana Armed Forces, the Minerals Commission, and recently a task force formed by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources called NIMOS to fight illegal mining. Because we get illegal mining done in our water bodies that is actually polluting our water bodies in a very high frequency. So we have started the process of rehabilitating our water bodies. We're finding technologies that will help us clean the water bodies as they are on the environment. So it makes it easy for the Ghana Water Company to treat it for our use. So that's one intervention EPA is bringing on board. And we're also collaborating with the UNDP, Water Aid Ghana, to restore some riparian zones, because along the river banks or the water bodies are the trees that have also been cut or deforested, and we're trying to restore all these trees back. Those times when Nana was speaking, yes, indigenous, our tradition used to help us preserve our water bodies, preserve some natural reserves. But recently, things have changed a lot, and I would say the methods have changed a lot. So to go to a river to cut a tree is a taboo, and you can't do it in many villages. But until recently, these taboos don't seem to work again. And so that's what Nana was saying earlier on. I mean, one of those Nana was saying, even with our forests, where we are not supposed to enter a certain forest to cut tree or do any activity in the forest. There used to be a taboo to enter a forest. But these days, those taboos do not work. So we get people boldly entering our forest reserve in cutting trees. So the same situation we have with our water bodies. Next slide. We have also pollution of our water bodies from plastics. And I heard the last speaker also mention plastic waste in Africa. Ghana generates approximately 3,000 metric tons of plastic waste daily. And that translates into about 1.1 million tons annually of plastic waste in the environment. And most of these plastic waste in the environment end up in our water bodies, including the sea, the ocean, the global ocean that we have. So only 5% of these bottles or plastics get recycled. Many more, some are burnt openly, but a lot more are left on the environment, polluting the environment. So they also cause urban flooding because they kind of block drainage when it rains. And this becomes a problem, especially for the cities with any heavy rain will cause flooding in the cities. We're also struggling with e-waste, electronic waste. So same as we purchase or we buy textiles, used clothes, and largely, most of them will end up in our landfill sites. We also have the electronic products that come, and most of them are actually waste. And it's also a problem. And those ones release heavy metals into an environment. We recently did a study on lead in the environment, and we realized that a lot of the lead pollution in our soils and our water bodies are also coming from the electronic waste that are dumped in Ghana. Next slide. So our interventions, I try to make it a summary. We have the National Plastic Management Policy that is guiding us in managing plastics in Ghana. We have the extended producer responsibility, more like the producer pay policy. So we have some levies we charge to the producers of plastics and the users of plastics in Ghana. And then we support the recycling companies in improving on their production or guiding them through or making life easy for them to start up and also operate in Ghana to help with the recycling. And then we have the e-waste regulation and control, which also guide us in managing e-waste in the country. Then we've done a number of public and private sector partnerships in a way to help control, especially the plastics. Then we have marine debris monitoring, because most of these plastics end up in the ocean. So we do cleaning of the ocean and the beaches, and then do the monitoring as well. Next slide. Now the expectation is climate change. So the air, the water, the pollution, and all of these environmental challenges are worsened also with climate change. So with all of our environmental challenges, we become more vulnerable to even climate change because we're already struggling. And with global warming, plus the impact of climate change, droughts, warmer atmosphere, floods are all becoming more frequent in the country. And one, which I think comes in the next slide, that I will even elaborate more on, the next slide, is the coastal erosion. It's pathetic to see some cities, coastal cities, we are losing to the sea. And this is a picture taken from Keta. Keta is a big area in Ghana, a coastal city, with a number of small communities that we have lost to the sea. So the sea has taken over the houses, properties, traditional settings, and all of that. And that is very pathetic if you experience the people. So most of the people have migrated to other cities in the country or migrated inland away from the coastal area. There are so many other coastal areas that we are losing to coastal erosion. And this is because of the sea level rise. When you are in that part of Africa, you will hardly would think of the ice and the glaciers in the regions like this, in the Arctic and Antarctic region. But when the globe becomes so warm, when the earth becomes too warm, it melts the ice and the glaciers in the Arctic and Antarctic region. And when they melt, they run into the ocean. It keeps the ocean level high. That is where a small village in Ghana will experience a coastal erosion because the level of the sea has risen beyond the level that it's used to be for the comfort of the people staying in the coastal area. So now it's taking over the sea. So these days, the discussion even of the loss of the Arctic and Antarctic region is becoming more frequent and more interesting in some places in Africa, because now we can put direct relation between that and the impact that it's having on our coastal cities. We get also heat stress, especially in the cities where urban heat becomes high. Through our own activities and indiscriminate way of building, we have also lost a lot of green spaces, and so urban heat becomes high or more frequent in our cities, and it's a struggle for us. For droughts, and we also have experience in largely most parts of Africa, where we get long months of no rain. It affects our crops. Most African countries depend on rain-fed agriculture. So where it even rains, but the rainfall becomes erratic, or it's not the normal trend that we are used to, especially for farmers, then it becomes a problem for agricultural production. It affects food security. That should be also a concern to government. And of course, water scarcity. So when we don't get enough rain, we also have scarcity of water. And what I presented earlier on, getting most of our water bodies polluted, then getting the additional struggles or impacts from climate change, it makes the situation even worse. In terms of public health, we have had experience of new diseases popping up, new vectors showing up in areas that they never had been before. The impact affects also even our road, our power system, and all of that, especially when there's storm, heavy wind systems, and all of that do affect our power system. So we get these impacts from climate change. And when the systems that we're already operating with are weak or already in a struggle, the impact of climate change makes it even worse. Next slide. Next slide. The warming of the globe and obviously sustainable growth. So based on our national climate policy, we look at every structure we look at towards sustainable growth of the country. So we have been able to integrate the policy into, or mainstream the policy into many development planning in the country and many sectors in the country. Ghana prepared its nationally determined contribution submitted to the UNFCCC as well, and it's going through an update as we speak. So Ghana coordinates the nationally determined contribution targets under the Paris Agreement, and this is also from my office at the EPA. And our aim is to reduce even our emission to 64 metric ton per carbon dioxide equivalent by 2030. So far, we are doing well with all the indicators. We are working so hard through our renewable energy promotion, through our carbon market registry, which also sits in my office. And reforestation, we're doing a Tree for Life program in the country. This year, His Excellency, the President of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, launched a project during the World Environment Day for Tree for Life. So it's expected that we plant number of trees, I've forgotten the number, in the country this year alone, and then every year we appreciate the number. So key among our achieving the target of reducing our emission is through renewable energy and exploring other energy sources other than fossil fuel. Next slide. So we have the National Adaptation Plan, which is also being implemented by the EPA. So we train local authorities, local government in climate adaptation planning. So we train leaders in planning how to adapt to issues of climate change. So we focus on resilient agriculture, advocating for climate smart agriculture, technologies for climate smart agriculture, water resource management, disease reduction, or disaster risk reduction, and all of that. So for renewable energy and green projects, we collaborate with the Energy Commission and the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition to promote solar, biogas solution. Even for schools, we have done some pilot for schools, some hospitals, and some markets on biogas usage, just to reduce the usage of fossil fuel in the country. Coastal protection and restoration and reforestation. This is also a guide we have at EPA to support sea defense, especially for the coastal areas that are struggling with coastal erosion. We have nature-based solutions as well, where we're restoring the mangrove along these coastal areas. We have, example, a project from UNESCO, by EPA, supported by UNESCO at Keta and Adan, where we have planted mangroves to restore the health of the coast. And we have the Greening Ghana initiative, so that's the 10 million trees launched by the president. Also, this one was 2021, but then in 2025, we have launched a Tree for Life project as well, in all supporting greening Ghana and reforesting Ghana. Yes, thank you. So Ghana has complex environmental challenges. I mean, as I said earlier on, Ghana is a case study for most African countries. So from the air we breathe, from water we drink, even the food, waste management, and then climate change. We're doing our best in playing a vital role in showing leadership in the country, trying to enforce environmental laws and emission standards, promoting cleaner technologies and renewable energy. In fact, the EPA has a Ghana Cleaner Production Center where we demonstrate cleaner technologies to our industries and the general public. Then we do the monitoring of environmental quality for water, land, and air. We reclaiming a lot of the lands that have been degraded through illegal mining, especially illegal mining activities. So whilst we're supporting recycling, we are doing restoration of our forests, restoration of our land, and rehabilitation of our water bodies as well. Another mandate we have is the public education on environmental responsibilities. So EPA has a school, which is the Institute of Environmental Studies, where we train the general public, we train groups and professionals on environmental responsibility. So it depends on which area we're looking at, from mining to plastics management to water management to everything that we have training on. Anything related to environment. So we want to achieve a cleaner, healthier, and climate resilient Ghana. Thank you very much for this opportunity.